Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is now just 20 days away from its official release by Disney, Lucasfilm, J.J. Abrams, and crew that's all sitting ready to end the Skywalker saga and the sequel trilogy itself. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about Episode 9 that a lot of fans are very worried about and are very excited about at the same exact time is exactly how they're going to handle the entire film that's going to tie into both the prequels and the originals, and exactly how it's really going to be the true culmination of the Skywalker saga. Now, obviously, we do know that Disney and Lucasfilm really want this movie to succeed because it really is going to determine the future of the Star Wars franchise and where things will go moving forward, and exactly what that really means for, of course, Disney Plus and new Star Wars movies, the new Star Wars trilogy at that, you name it. So, with The Rise of Skywalker, it is an important film for Disney and Lucasfilm and to the Star Wars community because it really does mean everything. Now, when we look at Episode 9, through all the various changes and adjustments that Disney and Lucasfilm actually went through during the months of August, September, and October, this is rather unfortunate of certain decisions that they actually made for the third act of Episode 9 specifically, which we'll get into right now. Now, specifically, it's explained that during many of the reshoots and rewrites of the film for the months of August, September, and October is when many adjustments were made to the second and third acts of the movie, where one of the big changes had to do with changing elements of some of the core characters in the film that forced Disney and Lucasfilm to completely restructure the movie. It's explained that Anakin Skywalker's role in the third act of the film, when helping Rey fight Palpatine, was said to have been greatly reduced from an actual Force Ghost appearance of Anakin Skywalker to only creating him as a Force Ghost voice reaching out to Rey. This decision was made to focus more on the character of Rey and away from the Skywalkers, where Luke's Force Ghost originally was also said to make an appearance next to Anakin helping Rey, where that footage was also cut from the film where, like of course other Force Ghosts that help Rey will only become Force Ghost voices, that Rey becomes the new Chosen One under Disney and Lucasfilm, where Anakin is no longer the Chosen One at the end of Act 3 of the movie. Now, also on top of this, Ben Solo's death is said to be similar to Mace Windu's death in Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith, where he gets hit by Force lightning and thrown across the throne room, falling into a very deep pit. It's explained that Ben Solo's death will be left completely ambiguous and mysterious within the third act of the film, and that there is no Force Ghost of Ben Solo in the movie or even a Force Ghost voice of Ben Solo. It's said that Disney and Lucasfilm did not want both Ben and Rey to fight Palpatine, and wanted only Rey to fight Palpatine to the death to put her through a challenge, and to make her a very powerful figure since she is said to now be the Chosen One. Palpatine's death in the film is explained to happen just seconds after Rey battles Sidious, and lasts no longer than 10 seconds, when she blocks the lightning using both Anakin and Leia's lightsabers back at him. So let's go over a couple of parts about this. Now, the thing about Episode 9 here is that a lot of things are going on with this movie. In order for this film to really succeed, they really have to make specific choices that are going to really, resonate with fans in a positive sense. These choices, in my point of view, are not really good decisions by Disney and Lucasfilm and really do portray the fans. When we look at The Rise of Skywalker, alright, I want to look at what George Lucas said years ago, that Anakin is and always will be the Chosen One, no ifs, ands, or buts, no excuses. Anakin Skywalker will always remain as the Chosen One. So to switch it up and hand it down to Rey becoming the Chosen One, I think is a big, massive mistake by Disney and Lucasfilm, and just doesn't really make any sense in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, she's going to be the one to kill Palpatine in the process. But the other thing that really does bother me as a fan, and I'm sure it bothers you guys out there as well, and, say what you will about me being negative about this, these are just my honest opinions, my honest feelings about what I'm actually, examining and what I actually feel about these certain decisions by Disney and Lucasfilm, is that in the third act of Episode 9, reducing Anakin Skywalker's appearance as a Force Ghost and dwindling it down to just being a Force Ghost voice, I think is a very cheap move. I think it's a very poor move by Disney and Lucasfilm. The fact that you had Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker appear at the very end of Return of the Jedi, and even, Sebastian Shaw and his portrayal as Anakin, there really is no excuse to exclude Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost at the very end of Episode 9 if you shot it anyway, and dwindled it down now to the point where it's just a Force ghost voice. That, to me, I can't really wrap my head around that, or I just can't really understand Disney and Lucasfilm's ways of really handling certain scenes in Episode 9's ending, specifically when they both battle, of course, Palpatine. And that leads me to Ben Solo's death and Palpatine's death. Now, this is, of course, something that a lot of fans, I think, are going to be very divided over, to be honest. Ben Solo's death is said to be near similar to how Mace Windu dies, where he gets hit by Force lightning, he gets thrown away into a bottomless pit, like how Mace Windu, he was thrown out the actual skyscraper over Coruscant. Very similar scenario. Basically, Kylo gets the Mace Windu treatment. And we all know that when we look at the Rise of Skywalker, there are obviously going to be lots of sacrifices and losses in this movie. That's one of the big tones that J.J. Abrams actually revealed that's going to be a part of Episode 9, is that this movie will have all of those different types of tones. A lot of sacrifices, losses, very emotional. He hopes a lot of fans will cry, laugh, get excited, and just rave about the movie. Now, this film, by the way, Ben Solo's death being left very ambiguous, where you're left wondering whether or not he made his way over into the Netherworld, I think is yet again a great example of poor writing by J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. I feel that him actually not being explained, Ben Solo's death not being explained in great detail, I think is a big mistake, because if you look at Anakin, he was able to become a Force ghost, as were all of the other Skywalkers, right? Here's my problem. Leia is actually set to die in this movie at a certain point in time and become a Force ghost because she gets training from Luke Skywalker. That's understandable. But even if Leia, of all people, is able to become a Force ghost, why can't Ben Solo? Because he is now a Jedi again. He is now, once again, Ben Solo at the very end of the second act, leading into the third act, when he helps Rey fight Palpatine. Now, that's my only problem, is that Leia becomes a Force ghost, but Ben Solo doesn't. That just doesn't really seem to match up. So when we look at Episode 9 here, that's the big problem, is that they are going through those, decisions that they actually had to make during those months that I believe wasn't really a good thing. It was actually a very, big and bold decision that was actually a negative, thing for the fans, I believe. The fact that Rey becomes a chosen one and Anakin forfeits that title, I'm just not quite sure, how that's really going to flow with fans and how it's really going to work well with the fans or not work well with the fans. To me, Anakin is and always will be the chosen one, as George Lucas stated, many years ago, how that would never change, and that Disney and Lucasfilm are now changing that because the prophecy basically is going to be expanded in Episode 9 to where Rey is the chosen one and kills the Sith once and for all, destroys him, destroys Palpatine by just using the Force lightning technique and bouncing it back at Palpatine, where he disintegrates into nothing. That is Sidious and his death in this movie. And the last thing I just want to touch on here is that so far from what I have seen in the teasers and the trailers, the visuals look fantastic. I love the world of Exegol. Looks amazing. I like some of the new looks of Palpatine's throne room and his throne. Those actual shots look pretty impressive, but it's all about context. It's all about what's happening in the moment. And I feel that these decisions just are not the best decisions by Disney and Lucasfilm and are poorly written by JJ, Chris, etc. And they did that as a way in order to sacrifice other scenes that were already shot. Just really, I can't wrap my head around that. That's just my own take on things. That's my 2 cents on the third act of Episode 9 and how everything is really rolling out. We are now just 20 days away. 20 days away from this movie. It's going to be quite an interesting experience to see what the fans think about this movie, how the Rotten Tomatoes scores are going to be, and exactly, where this movie will stand in comparison to The Last Jedi. If it's going to be better or worse. That's going to be a big question open on the table for discussion until the actual movie releases come December 19th of December. So with that being said, guys, I would like to hear what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch catch you guys next time.
From night to moon we hear them moans again.